morning. Thank you so much for joining me in my queendom for another exciting episode of Queening with the Empress with me, your host, Patience Cat Phiri. My guest today, I am so excited. If my face doesn't show it, I don't know, change your glasses or something, because we've been trying to get this meeting and life has been happening and happening. And finally, life was like, stop. It's happening today. So today, I hope you're ready. She is a writer. She's a social justice and human rights defender. Thandekile Moyo. Now that you hear the name, you're like, what? Exactly how I feel. Thandekile Moyo is best known on Twitter for her Twitter signature, #ZANUPF must go. On her timeline, she shoots straight from the hip and she calls a spade a spade. She just does everything and she will continue to speak, so she says. And to many, she is the voice of the voiceless and the face of the revolution. She joins me today and I am excited. Welcome.
Hi, you flatter so much. But thanks, hi. I'm
Hi. I'm so excited. I feel like, I feel we're trying a dog with two tails.
Okay. I'll take your word for it and take that as a compliment.
It is. You can even see from my face, like I'm like.
Thank you.
So please tell me, what kind of child were you growing up?
I was a sensitive child.
Mm-hmm.
I used to cry about everything. And I think I was really difficult to raise because so many things felt like abuse to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I just could not tolerate any form of injustice, even against me, against others. Yeah. And at the time, really, I had not learned to speak out. So I would just hurt, internalize, and just be affected so badly by things. Yeah. But I was also a happy child. I grew up in Gwanda. We spoke about this earlier, semi-rural. So life in the outdoors, and yeah, it was, I think I had a happy childhood in spite of my sensitivity.
Mm. Do you remember what you wanted to be when you grew up?
I wanted to be a judge. Like I had no doubt about it that when I grow up, I want to be a judge. I almost went to magistrate school.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, so I knew exactly what I wanted to be. I don't know where it all went wrong. Yeah.
That's how it all went wrong.
Yeah.
So when did you arrive at your aha moment, if you can remember, isn't Zimbabwe right? Like things in Zimbabwe are not right. When did you arrive at that moment?
So, I'm a Gwanda girl,
Yeah.
So my life really has, for the longest time, I really didn't have much exposure to many things.
Mm-hmm.
So I was not really interested in politics because in as much as I could see everything that was happening around me, I don't think I attributed any of our suffering basically to the politics of the country. I know, I knew I was surrounded by people who would always be like, Izanu this, Izanu that. But for me, it wasn't that deep, until I moved to Harare. So I moved to Harare in 2015, I think. January 2015 is when I moved to Harare, and Harare will expose you to ZANU-PF whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
So my exposure to ZANU-PF initially was the lifestyle that people in ZANU-PF leaded. I was exposed so much to a totally different lifestyle being lived by these people who were very close to power. And it was surprising to me that, is this Zimbabwe? Like, I mean, here I am in this city. When they say Harare life is fast, they really mean that, you
Yeah.
know. So I was thrown right deep into Harare, and that exposed me to a lot of things that I was not aware of. That there were these people living this life completely oblivious of all the suffering that's happening in the country, and so I in as much as that was not my aha moment, but that was the beginning of my political conscience.
Mm-hmm.
I think being exposed to that, seeing that, comparing it with life back home in Rwanda, and just realizing there's something, there's an imbalance here,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So
Was it?
I'm not sure I'm
What?
answering your question correctly.
Well, you're giving me
Yeah,
a wake. I don't know if we can call it an awakening. That you suddenly you're like,
I think it was my introduction to
yeah,
politics
yeah,
more
okay,
than anything, because yeah, that's what really opened my eyes to what was going on.
mm, okay. And then when you
Yeah.
finally decided to speak out, was it a difficult decision to make? Did you have to talk to family members and sit them down? Tilalela nini, I've decided this is what I'm doing. What was going through your mind?
So you see, I've always been outspoken,
Mm-hmm.
and I I had been speaking out about issues even on my Facebook page, but it wasn't really targeted
Okay.
at at uh, at 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 speaking out against injustice. It was just me always commenting about what's going on. If I saw people fighting outside the ZANU, I remember there's a time I saw fist fights, you know, outside the ZANU offices in Rwanda, and I went to Facebook and I spoke about it. So I've always been someone who sees things and just talks about it.
Mm-hmm.
So when I moved to Harare, I started seeing more.
Okay.
And then I started participating more also in politics, attending marches, attending demonstrations, and seeing that. And so I started. So for me it wasn't about speaking out. It was just this exhibitionist nature, I think, of me just saying, "Hey guys, I'm here, and this is what's going on." Or did you hear about this? Or did you hear about that? And so basically it started as just me living my life the way that I've always lived my life. I would go to a Babes Odumo show and tweet about it and say, "Hey guys, this is what's going on." Then I would also see something political happening and also tweet about it, you know. So there was really no discussion with anyone, because it's not a decision that I made that
Okay.
I'm going to get into politics. So I actually did not see myself as a political player before being attacked by the system.
Okay.
You know, I just thought I was just living my life and talking about what's going on.
Talking about being attacked by the system, before we go to the hashtag, I remember, I think Nama demonstrations, well, we've had so many demonstrations now. There's a tweet, there's a thread that you did. I think they were the January ones. Was it the January ones or the March ones? I don't remember. Where you were now doing a thread of how they followed you, the ones, and you ended up having to leave home with the little that you had to go into hiding.
Oh, that must have been January 2019, but that wasn't my first brush with the system.
Okay.
So what happened is, when I was in Harare, I was working for Heritage Publishing House, which is a company that is funded by government. It's a publishing house. So we were writing geography textbooks I was writing geography textbooks and others were writing other subjects, but we were writing books for the new curriculum. I don't know if you know about the new curriculum that the government launched a few years back.
Yes.
So they went on this program to try and write books for the new curriculum. So I was working for a government-funded publishing house. So while I was doing that, I was also writing as a freelancer. So my writing at some point became political. When they first employed me, I was just writing about social issues. I'd write about love. I'd write about, so I don't think it meant anything to them, because they asked me before I got the job, what do you write about? And I told them, no, just social issues, you know, and they're like, that's fine. So, but towards 2018, I think it was after the coup. So when the coup happened, it shocked me. I don't want to lie. I mean, it was, to me, the greatest injustice ever, that soldiers could come and say, yebo umgaba limfuni, and umgabe vele sasingamfuni. But it shocked me that we have been saying we don't want Mugabe for so many years, and they had been keeping him in power against our will. And then one day they wake up, and because they don't want him anymore, they say to us, Mugabe says him keep. And I was like, what? Like, who do you think you are? Like, I mean, how does that happen, that the military can decide for us that you are going to have Mugabe whether you want it, whether you want him or not, and then wake up one day and say, okay, Mugabe lata samfun, so we're going to remove him. And not only did they remove him, they replaced him with someone who was so unsuitable, in my opinion, with someone who was a Kukurahundi perpetrator. So it became clear to me from the onset that this is just factionalism at play. And it was, I think that was my aha moment.
Okay.
That the country is run by ZANU-PF, but all along I had not realized how deeply ZANU-PF is entrenched in all our institutions. It was the first time that I realized that the military was actually ZANU-PF. You know? So all along I thought, yeah, the soldiers support Mugabe and them, but it's all about the liberation struggle and all those, the bond between the army and liberation war heroes. But the coup to me showed me that no, the army is actually a wing of ZANU-PF, and they're meddling in politics. So I think that was my aha moment. And so when that happened, and when they put a Kukurahundi perpetrator as the head of the new dispensation, I started reading more about Kukurahundi, and I also started to write about it. So I then started writing for Mail and Guardian about Kukurahundi, and that's when the shit hit the fan, you know, basically. So my employers were not happy at all, and I ended up getting fired from my job. So I was writing for Mail and Guardian. I was live tweeting MDC rallies and MDC marches, and I think they realized, you know what, this person does not deserve to be earning an income, especially not one funded by government. So they fired me. So that's the first time I was persecuted by the government. And that takes me back to your question about my family. And my family was really worried.
Yeah.
They were really worried for my safety. And because, you know, the persecution had been subtly going on for months while I was employed, to the point that when I was finally fired, it didn't come as a surprise. But most people in my family thought, hey, you are lucky they only just fired you. So why don't you just stop talking about these things? Because honestly, this should be a wake-up call to you that what you're doing is dangerous, and you are making so many people uncomfortable. But I felt, you know, it actually pushed me to do more. I felt being fired freed me. Because now I no longer had to worry about what my freelance writing, how it hit my employer, because I didn't have an employer anymore. And I think that helped me grow as a writer. It gave me so much freedom, and I just dove straight into it. And that's when I guess my outspokenness turned to activism of some sort. Yeah.
Okay. And then the hashtag, it said you started it, hashtag ZANU-PF must go, which is now your signature for everything. You'll say the weather is fine, hashtag ZANU-PF must go. Hi patience, hashtag ZANU-PF must go. It's become your signature, and many people have picked it up. Some will run with it and then it trends for a bit and then some stop, then they come back and then, but you've been consistent. What or who should go? What is the hashtag about? Can you like give us information on it?
So first of all, I didn't start the hashtag.
Okay.
That would be a lie to say I started the hashtag, because I once actually did a Twitter search of the hashtag after I started using it consistently and realized people had used it many times before me. So maybe what I can be credited with is using it consistently and probably turning it into some kind of movement. But people have been saying for years that ZANU-PF must go or that Mugabe must go. And people on Twitter, some had actually tweeted before, hashtag ZANU-PF must go. But for me, the hashtag is an answer to all our problems, in my opinion. So I would get into a supermarket and see prices had gone up unexplainably and unacceptably. And I would ask myself, what is going on? And the answer would always be ZANU is mismanaging this country. You know, so everything around me all of a sudden became such a huge sign of how ZANU is misgoverning the country. And the answer to me was just that ZANU must go. So, you know, I would go to a hospital. I remember there's a time I went to a hospital with this old lady who was not feeling well. And the doctor there, you know, the doctor refused to address this lady in a language she understands. And she kept addressing this old woman, yes, Shona. Wow. And I jumped in to say, why don't you let us interpret, because she's not hearing you. You know, Ukokolo could not even hear what this doctor was saying. And the doctor refused. And she kept going in Shona until she prescribed medication for her. And we were told, okay, so Pelile. And I said to myself, wait a minute, like, this is the institutional tribalism we talk about. Uguti, someone does not even see that it is so wrong for me to be operating in this predominantly Ndebele community and addressing people in a language they don't understand, and actually refusing to allow people to interpret for this old woman and also for her. So in my head, I said, this is ZANU, because ZANU is the one that has been championing this institutional tribalism. So the solution in my mind to that was, is ZANU Gaihand? Because they are the ones perpetrating this disunity between us. They are the ones who are championing this Shona supremacy. They are the ones who are leading marginalization against the people of Matebeleland. They are the ones who have made people feel a particular language should be the dominant language. There's no need for any language to dominate. People can speak in any language that they're comfortable with. But ZANU has made people believe that Shona is a dominant language. And that causes so much disunity. And until we sort all those things out, there can't be peace in the country. There can't be reconciliation. And when there's no peace and there's no reconciliation, there's no development that can go on. Because people from Matebeleland will not support any effort because they'll tell themselves, into Harare. And people from Harare will come and work in Matebeleland and experience tribalism or animosity, and they'll say, Amandebele ga sebenzeki la. So we need to bridge all those things that are dividing us. We have to find a bridge and find each other. And I believe sincerely that the only person or the only organization benefiting from this disunity is ZANU-PF. And I believe once we remove ZANU-PF from the equation, Zimbabweans will be able to find each other and will be able to develop our country and will be able to coexist.
Okay. So it's ZANU-PF, the party must go, because at times people struggle with who should go. Are we saying a certain individual? Are we saying the party? Are we saying the system? So, which is why people will ask who should go.
So for me, it's not even about individuals, but it's about the system of governance that ZANU-PF has chosen from 1980 till now. So ZANU-PF has become a system, you know, to the point that you hear people talking about ZANUism, where it is a system of oppression and it is a system of governance that is hell-bent on protecting a one-party state. So ZANU-PF, you hear abantu bezanu will tell you about Guarare ZANU, which is ZANU-PF ideology. Mkabe used to love talking about Tsitsi Saivanu, Guarare ZANU, you know, and Guarare ZANU is a one-party state. They were unapologetic about it from the 80s and in the 90s. These days, they don't really say it out loud, but everybody knows that Guarare ZANU, Indlela ye ZANU, is a one-party state. And so when I talk about ZANU-PF must go, I'm talking about the ZANU-PF ideology. It should be erased completely from our lifestyles. We should never allow an ideology of a one-party state, because the only way to have a one-party state is through oppression and repression. It means if you want a one-party state, you must kill all opposition to that one-party state, because people are not sheep, you know. You can't say to Zimbabweans, there's going to be a one-party state and that's it. There are people who are going to oppose that view. And if the government is hell-bent on protecting that one-party state, it means they have to go out of their way to kill off any threat. And that's what they've done. In 1980, they saw ZAPU as the threat. And from 1983 to 1987, they were killing ZAPU supporters in a bid to ensure that there was no threat to the one-party state. In 1990, Zoom came up, they killed Zoom supporters to protect a one-party state. 2000, MDC came up, they killed MDC supporters to protect a one-party state. 2002 presidential election, same story. 2008, same story. And even today in this new dispensation, they are still protecting the original ZANU-PF ideology, which is a one-party state, which is why they see people like me as an enemy of the state, because the state in their eyes is ZANU-PF. And anybody who says ZANU-PF must go is automatically an enemy of the state, which is so flawed. ZANU-PF is not the state. The state is composed of so many organs. Us, the people, the government, legislation, it has so many branches. You cannot take a ruling party and say this is the state of Zimbabwe. Anyone who speaks against the ruling party is speaking against the state. It's absolute nonsense, you know. So we have to fight the one-party state, and the one-party state is a ZANU-PF state. That is why ZANU-PF must go. So the entire system of governance that ZANU-PF is presiding over must go. Once ZANU-PF goes, individuals in ZANU-PF who still want to participate in politics can still do so. But after the institutions have been freed, after we now have a level political playing field where we can say anyone who wants to participate in politics does so in free and fair elections. And umuntu okade kuZANU engawina in a free and fair election, I mean, come on, you can't stop them. But we have to have a level playing field. And people must win elections freely and fairly. And that's basically what I'm fighting for. I'm fighting for democracy. Democracy is a system of governance that allows multiple parties to participate in politics. We can't have a one-party state. We should all refuse to allow a one-party state to stay in power.
Okay. And then looking at the political leadership that we have now, do you see a possible leader? And what is it that you see in that leader? Or what do you think Zimbabwe needs now in terms of leadership going forward?
So, in my opinion, because we are fighting for democracy and not fighting for power, because I don't believe ZANU-PF must go is a movement that is fighting to grab power from ZANU-PF and keep it. because I believe ZANU-PF must go is a people's movement. It's what I believe people are feeling deep down in their homes when they see all these things going on. So ZANU-PF must go movement is not a struggle for power. It's a fight for democracy. So I need to make that clear, because I see many people thinking maybe when you say ZANU-PF must go, you're saying MDC must come into power. I'm really not concerned about who comes into power after we remove the one-party state system, for as long as whoever comes into power is chosen by the people in free and fair elections. So what this means is I believe that people need to come together. Political parties, the MDC, I think we should forget about the MDCT, and that's purely my opinion.
Well, sorry, I've got a question. Don't even address it now. There's a question.
Okay. So, all right, fine. So I believe that political parties, trade unions, churches, business leadership, I believe everybody now needs to come together to remove these people perpetrating over a one-party state. We need Zimbabweans because I believe every Zimbabwean believes in democracy. That's why we participate in elections. And even the apathetic, they stopped participating in elections because they feel it doesn't give them the leaders that they want. So we all need to come together, forget about the politics, forget about this fight for power, and come together to push this system out, this system of misgovernance, this system of oppression. Once we have removed ZANU-PF from power, we strengthen our weak institutions, because a one-party state has been made possible by weak institutions, where our judiciary is now serving ZANU, our army is now serving ZANU, the police are serving ZANU, the RBZ is serving ZANU, all institutions in the country are serving ZANU-PF. So we need to remove ZANU-PF and restructure all our institutions so that we have a ZEC that is independent. We have a judiciary that is independent. I mean, they're experts in this field who can tell us how to restructure these systems. It's been done in all other countries that have had conflict before, in the spirit of transitional justice, where you are transitioning from a point of conflict to a point of peace, stability, reconciliation, development. So what we are trying to do is to say, we are in conflict. To end this conflict, we need to remove the perpetrator of the conflict. And for us to do that, Zimbabweans must come together. Forget about political power, which is something that Zimbabwean leaders fail to do. They fail to stop focusing on political power. And I see opposition leaders fighting for political power, which they don't have. How do you fight for something that none of you has? You're fighting for power, but all the power is in ZANU-PF. And it's senseless to me, honestly, to be fighting for power, because none of us have that power. The power is with ZANU-PF. We need to grab the power from ZANU-PF and put it back in the people, because essentially democracy is driven by people power. The people have the power to install leaders. So once we put the power back in the hands of the people, all these people can now fight for power. They can tear each other up for all we care. They can campaign however they want. They can do whatever they want, but the playing field will be level and the best man will win. But we're not there yet. Opposition should not even be fighting amongst each other, because there's nothing to fight for. Yeah.
Okay. So then now I'm forced to do my follow-up question, because I wanted to find out Uguti MDC, which I think is the strongest opposition at the moment for a number of years, is at war with itself. We're waking up each day, we have a headline, this and that. And then now there's the MDC-A, and then there's the MDC-T. I don't know now, which is now also the MDC-A, but then basically there's the MDC with the Chamisa, and then there's the MDC with Ukupe. What do you think? What is happening? What are the effects of MDC splitting up? and doing what it is doing now. Uthokozani Kupe going back into parliament and being an MP, recalling members, and here Thandekile is out here saying hashtag ZANU-PF must go. What are the effects of the opposition being at war with itself, like you're saying, fighting for power that they do not have at the moment?
So, to be honest with you, I do not think the Thokozani issue is MDC being at war with each other.
Mm-hmm.
This is ZANU-PF perpetuating a one-party state. What ZANU-PF has done is capture part of the opposition in a bid to make sure that opposition is firmly under their control. Mm. And this is an attack on MDC by ZANU-PF. I believe if we say this issue between MDC-T and MDC-A is opposition fighting, we are not being sincere. Mm-hmm. This is not your normal MDC split like when Welshmen split from Changirai. Mm-hmm. This is not your split like when Tendai BT split from Changirai. Mm-hmm. This is an attack on opposition by a government that wants a one-party state. And they have done that the same way that they have captured all the other institutions we spoke about earlier. They captured the judiciary by capturing some judges. They have captured the opposition by capturing Thokozani Kupe and Monzora. This is clear for everybody to see. But this stops being an MDC fight. This stops being just the normal MDC factionalism, which I've always said, I don't want to involve myself in any party's factionalism. Mm-hmm. This is beyond factionalism, because what ZANU-PF has done is say to the people, you had elections in 2018 where Thokozani Kupe stood for election and Nelson Chamisa stood for election, and you rejected Thokozani Kupe and voted for Nelson Chamisa. But whether you like it or not, we are going to impose Thokozani as a leader. And I feel this is an attack on us. This is an attack on the people of Zimbabwe more than it is an attack on the MDC. Because they have removed the leaders that we voted for, the MPs. Because I actually take this personally, because I have been serious about voting for a number of years now. I mean, when the election happened, I was living in Harare, but I made sure that I registered to vote, and I went back, I came back home to vote. And I did that at my expense so that I would have a say in who becomes the member of parliament in my ward, so that I would have a say in who becomes a councillor in my home. And I went and I voted. The mayor that I voted for in Gwanda has been removed by Thokozani Kupe. The MPs that we voted for have been removed by Thokozani Kupe. And we need to realize that Thokozani Kupe is now working for a one-party state. She is working for ZANU-PF, because everything that she's doing, if we ask ourselves, who is it benefiting? It's benefiting ZANU-PF. So it means that Thokozani Kupe is now a ZANU-PF employee who is hell-bent on protecting the one-party state. So it's extremely unfair of us to pretend that what is happening between MDC-T and MDC-A is factionalism. It is no longer factionalism. Factionalism is whatever else is happening amongst all these others now fighting for who's going to represent MDC in these coming elections and whatever. What this is happening is an attack on our democracy by the government that has captured part of the opposition. And they say to the people, we don't give a damn about who you voted for in 2018. We are going to remove those people, and we're going to put the people that we want. And the instrument that they are using to do this is Thokozani Kupe.
Okay. So what do you think, in your opinion, is holding Zimbabweans back? Because like you're telling me, Uguti, you decided Uguti, from Harare, you'll go down to Gwanda to make sure that you vote and exercise your right. But what is it that is holding Zimbabweans from actively participating in all these national processes, even holding leaders accountable and demanding the Zimbabwe they want?
I think that we are victims of oppression, and it's so deeply entrenched in us to the point that whenever we see anyone being questioned, we think it's an attack because we're products of ZANU-PF. So like now, I have been criticizing MDC A. Now I don't even know who's who. I've been criticizing the Chamisa-led MDC for what I believe to be complacency, because I believe they could be doing so much more. But every time I voice that out, MDC supporters will come out guns blazing at me. I have actually come to a point where I believe that MDC supporters are as vicious to any dissenters as ZANU-PF supporters are. And in my personal situation, I have been attacked more by MDC supporters than I ever have been by Varakash. Wow. Because their attack has been so shocking to me and so severe, to the point that I do not understand why MDC would feel threatened by a ZANU-PF must go movement. And it shows me just how deeply this ZANU-PF behavior and system is now part of our culture. So ZANU-PF, how they've maintained power is by fighting off all dissenters violently. And that is the culture that MDC has also adopted, that if anyone attacks our leader, we are going to go after them. We're going to go after their person. We're going to just attack, because we are not going to allow anyone to attack our leader. And you can't blame them, because that is the nature of our politics. That has been the nature of our politics for so long. Opposition has been under attack. So now they cannot differentiate between criticism from someone who's trying to build up the movement and criticism from someone who's trying to destroy the movement. So I think we need, as citizens, to also learn that holding leaders accountable is our responsibility. We have at every turn to question them about every decision that they make and all those things. So we need to learn that accountability is something that we deserve, and it's something that we should demand. Then there's also the issue of fragmentation. All our movements are fragmented, like all of them. If you look at teachers' unions, I was shocked yesterday to discover we've got 8 teachers' unions. I mean, how do they expect to even achieve anything? There's 8 teachers' unions fighting unilaterally. They're not even, I mean, you have PTUZ talking about their own demands, Rural Teachers Association also their own, ZIMTA. We need to stop this business of everyone wanting to have power. The 8 teachers' unions says to me, there are 8 people that wanted to be leaders of teachers' unions, and they said, if I'm not going to be president of ZIMTA, I'm going to start my own. And then if I'm not going to be president of PTUZ, I'm going to start my own. So Zimbabweans are more interested in power than in actually developing our country, than in actually receiving gains, because what is on the ground is that power gives wealth. And so everyone knows that if I become the president of ZIMTA, I'm going to get a car, I'm going to get allowances, I'm going to get money. And that is unfortunate, because what is now happening is that all these leaders of these teachers' unions have become an elite. They're earning way more than the teachers are earning. And how on earth do you think that somebody living in a plush suburb can fight for you and understand what you're going through when they're not living your reality? So we now have elites being leaders of all our groups, be it political, be it trade union, be it what. And then now there's this, they're out of touch with the realities of the people that they're fighting for, which is why I think this fight is so flaccid, because the people that are fighting for us, they've got boreholes in their yards. I mean, all you need to do to understand this, go on Twitter and look at 10 leaders media. Just look for someone who's posting a picture in their house, and you see the plush leather sofas, and you see the paintings on the wall, and ask yourself, do you think this person will call for a demonstration for Uti Epumula Gulamans? Do you really think? I mean,